Welcome. Thank you so much for joining the Google Meet discussion. If you haven't met me before, I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself as your workspace specialist. We'll talk a little bit about the new features for Google Meet, some security things that you should be aware of, and then do a very short demo. So if you haven't met me, my name is Heather Summers. I'm a Google Workspace Specialist here at SADA. Okay, some of the new features that came out that are super exciting is 250 participants in Google Meet. And if you're not aware of this, Google Meet is part of the Google Workspace SKUs. So it automatically comes in it. It's our teleconferencing tool. You can do 100,000 live stream. You can access it anywhere from any time. You can do recordings on your domain, and then it's hack-proof security features, and then it has end-to-end encryption. So what does that mean for you as an end user? Is that you don't have to have separate teleconferencing products. This one will support up to 250 people. That live stream means that if you have more than 250 people, you can do a live stream. It's very similar to a YouTube live. It's just a few seconds later than what we're doing here. And then access anytime from anywhere, mobile devices, and so forth. Recordings on your domain. What does that mean? So because of the pandemic, a lot of security gaps in our competition were revealed. So you probably heard of Zoom bombing, there was hacking, and so forth. And what was happening is that people were coming in through those connections. So Zoom doesn't have any kind of ability to check that you're who you say you are, right? We can do your authentication through your email, and so you're authenticated by Google. If you're outside of the Google ecosystem, we can still authenticate you through your email. And then that ability to not have Zoom hacking, there's no word for Meet hacking because it doesn't happen. And we'll talk about that in more detail in our security. So what does that hack-proof security mean? And I will show you that to you. So Google Meet security features, for those of you who don't know, Google Meet has been around since 2017. And it was made by engineers at Google for other engineers. So it is incredibly secure. And it's a cloud-based product, not computer-based. And so you can't come in through someone's system or in touch their computer because it doesn't have, a presence on your computer. Also, you've probably heard of people hacking through your browser and other things. This is Google, and it's a core product, so it has the same end-to-end encryption that all of our email, Google Drive files, anything that goes across the network has. The other exciting thing is those recordings are stored on your Google Drive, so you've got the same government level security for your files as you do for those Google videos. If they're stored on your machine or on that third party, so if you've used Zoom, WebEx, GoToWebinar, you know that you can store the videos on their network. Then you're really putting your security in their hands. That's not the case here. Those videos will be stored in your Google Drive, and that means you have the same security as Google and as your company. So you don't have to worry about, oh, is someone going to hack that or see that video or anything else? How do we get around Zoom bombing, right? So if you've ever used Zoom or WebEx, you know that they have a thing called personal rooms. These are static locations that you go to all the time. And they were great, right? You had a static URL, and I would go to that URL. Well, what this whole pandemic exposed is if you had ever published that URL for any reason, let's say you had a public meeting or something, people can then come into that URL at any time and Zoom bomb your meeting. There was also the ability of, and we saw this in schools across the country, is people were using Zoom and people would pretend to be that child that was in that class, and then they would show, inappropriate videos or whatever in that classroom. And that was called Zoom bombing. People would come in and were not invited to the meeting because they had that static URL. And it was very hard to recreate that URL, which was interesting. So Google had avoided this from the beginning. As a long time person that has used the Google ecosystem, I had no idea about every time you make a Google meeting, it does 10 characters long. It's unique every time. And there is no such thing as a personal room inside of Google Meet because every time you go to a meeting, it's a different link. So I thought that was really interesting. Is this something they thought about, as I said, 3 years ago before all of this stuff happened, to keep that security? Because it's made by engineers, right? They thought of these things. Your meeting details, all of that, your phone pin is all again uniquely done. So again, with those personal rooms, you had a static PIN number and you had a static phone number. These are generated each time you make a meeting. Joining a meeting, we can restrict people and so forth. And then typically it was restricted to your domain on the Google Workspace platform. They have added a new thing where you can do bulk admittance and bulk denial. So just another security feature they've just added. And then external participants were limited to joining if they were outside your domain. So, what does that functionality look like? What has happened? So, if you've been with us through this journey, back in March, we started seeing all of these innovations start rolling out, right? So, we've added, since March, Q&A, polling, hand raising, uh, dial in numbers, record and save meetings in your drive, and I told you the importance of that. In domain live streaming, and this allows you to have larger groups than that 250 number I named. And then you have breakout rooms, attendance tracking, noise cancellation, and so on. So these were all things that have just been added since that March timeframe. So that is another thing that we have seen as part of this new dynamic. Okay, so I've already opened a demo here. I'm going to close it out and open it up, right back up. My colleague Samantha is in here with me. And the reason why is I want to show you some of those features that we talked about. So here inside of my environment, you'll notice I have the start streaming option here. And this allows me to stream this meeting, like I said, to that larger audience. There's Sam. And so that's what the start streaming looks like. Then you can see the participants up here on the right. So you can see it's me and Sam. I can pin her to the screen. I can remove her from the meeting. We can chat within this meeting. The chat is not saved in any manner. But if I come over here to these new buttons here, this is where we see the breakout rooms, the polls, and the Q&A. So if I go to the breakout rooms, for instance, I can set up a breakout room. I have 2 rooms in here. Sam's in one, and I can put myself in the other, or I can put myself with Sam. So I can do these breakout rooms. We can put a timer on the breakout rooms and the breakout room after 5 minutes, for instance. And then I can shuffle and I can clear. So now I can come down here and open those rooms, and we'll join into breakout room 1. And this would be separate from the rest of the meeting. So you can see Sam was in the main call. She's moving into the call with me. And then we can have our conversation, everything inside of here. So I can come in here and talk to her. So I'll say hello. And it's private to us. It's not part of the rest of the meeting. Once that 5 minutes is over, hi. Once that 5 minutes is over, it will kick us back into the other room. If I decide, we're done, we met, I've done your review now, Sam, we can go back to the rest of the group. I can close the room, and she'll be put back into that main call again. So it's giving me a few seconds to close it, and then she'll be back in the main room. Close the rooms now with me. So those are breakout rooms. We've been seeing a lot of this, surprisingly, in events. So political events, all kinds of things, have been using breakout rooms. We've seen it in tutoring companies, government agencies, reviews, like I said, classrooms for to talk to the teacher, talk to the student, and so forth. So those are all part of those breakout rooms. Polls. I can have more than 20 polls, I know, because someone asked me how many polls can we have, and I was like, I was able to get up to 21. So here you can ask a question. Is Texas sunny? If those of you who don't know, I'm in Austin, and we had what we are calling here locally our snowcopolis. And so a lot of us are just happy not to be in snow anymore, which is just weird for us. And so show everyone the results, yes or no, and then I can launch that poll and then people can answer. The other exciting thing about polls and Q&A is when I get out of this meeting, there'll be a report showing me what people answered. Q&A, same thing. I can ask questions inside the meeting. I can allow questions and then they can ask their question. How do you start a live stream, right? Post it, and now people can vote it up or vote it down. And then as I have time, I can answer those questions. So I can start this streaming, very simple and easy. I will give another link to my live streamers, and that will give them the 5-second delay that we talked about. And then over here on the right is where you can see the record meeting, the stop streaming, the whiteboard. This is where I can change my layout. So before we had a very limited option of how many people you could see in the tiled view. We're up to, I always have to check, 49 people now that you can see in that view. You can do an auto, which means it styles back and forth as the person's talking. You can do a spotlight, so you can see the person's presentation, a sidebar where you see the people and then what you're presenting. So that was another innovation that came out of all of this, was that tiled view, surprisingly. And then here you can see you can now change your background. So some of my colleagues, I always giggle, show like they're on a roller coaster or doing something really exciting. We had a sales conference and I had my boss behind me. So you can go ahead and slightly blur it, or blur it as much as I am here, or you can add your own background if you'd like here. So that is another new feature that was added. And then my favorite, which right now is called just captions, but in the future we're going to see more exciting things happen with this captioning option. So here you can see that it shows me talking. I gotta show the captions a little better, so let's try again. There we go. So now you can see that it's typing as I talk. And the exciting thing about the captions is it will, if I'm speaking Spanish, so hola, hola, ¿cómo está? It will automatically do Spanish, French, and German, and I think Portuguese is the fourth language. So it will go ahead and recognize those 4 languages and put them in correctly. So that is the closed captioning. The raise hand I told you about, so I can raise my hand. Here, if I show you the sidebar, you can see if we're in the meeting in that tiled version, and I'll put me and Sam in the tiled look. So we'll do tiled. Oh, maybe it won't show it because it's just 2 of us. But if I change that layout to tiled, typically I can see their hand raising. And then let's try the other one, the option of the sidebar with the people. Let's see if that one will show us the hand raise or not. Okay, nope, there's our hand raise though. And then I can lower my hand. And that was the other new feature. And then over here on the left, we told you could call into the meeting. So here I have a phone number and a PIN. There's more joining numbers. So as I said, if I go to these different ones, it's a different phone number for that country, but the same PIN number. And then the other exciting thing is I can call someone through here. So I can go to the meeting, add people, and then I can call that person with their phone number. The last thing I wanted to show you was the attendance tracking, and then under audio, the noise cancellation. So if you have, uses artificial intelligence, if you have a dog barking or a cat meowing, no one hears that. The problem is if it's a baby. If the baby is talking, it still will pick up that noise because it does pick up human voices. So the artificial intelligence is the one that's figuring that out, which I always find amazing. Okay, so that was a lot of information. I really appreciate you guys spending this time with me. If you have any questions, remember you can reach out to sales@sada.com and we'd be happy to help you transition on to Google Workspace or answer your questions in regards to Google Meet. Thank you.